Good evening and welcome everyone to our December Black Country Society Virtual Heritage Meeting. I'm Andrew Homer and I'll be chairing for tonight. It's nice to see lots of new members for Keith Hodgkins' talk on railway photography of Terry Hyde. So welcome to everyone. Regulars will know that we take it in turns to chair these meetings. So tonight we have Chris Baker handling the technical side of things, and Ward Jones will be chairing the questions and comments. As usual, please put these into the chat either as we go along or wait until the end of the talk, of course. Just a couple of quick housekeeping points before we start. Please keep your microphones turned off. The talks themselves and the PowerPoints are recorded, and this one will be available on the Black Country Society website and the YouTube channel. And it's a real pleasure tonight to introduce our speaker, Keith Hodgkins. I've known Keith for more years than probably either of us care to remember. A little bit about Keith. He was born in Tipton, where he still lives. His interest in local history had its origins in childhood train spotting on the canal side at Dudley Port, at a time when steam locomotives and commercial narrowboats were still commonplace. He joined the Black Country Society in 1973 and sat on the committee from 1974 to 1988. He was invited to become Society President in 2017. Keith qualified as an architect in 1980 and spent the latter half of his career working for Wolverhampton City Council before retiring in 2009. He's chairman of the Tipton Civic Society, and his many other interests include photography, rail travel, and a love of good pubs and real ale. I'm certainly with you on that last one, Keith. So without any further ado, over to Keith Hodgkins and a Black Country steam photographer rediscovered.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and hello everybody, and thanks for joining in. Can you all see my first slide there on the screen?
Hello, Keith. Can you make the screen full screen, can you?
Okay, there it is, full screen. Is that okay?
Brilliant. Thanks, Keith.
Okay, right. Well, the story starts for me about 35 years ago when I met a chap called David Wilson, who got a wonderful collection of photographs that he'd taken in the late 50s and early 60s of railways, which he shared with me. And he told me about a pal of his called Terry, who he knocked about with in those days, who had also got a wonderful collection of photographs. And he said, I must try and get in touch with Terry. I haven't seen him for a few years. But he tried to get in touch, and Terry had obviously moved on from his last address. So his attempt to contact him failed. And I thought, oh dear, I hope that's not a wonderful collection of photographs that's been lost to posterity. But then fast forward about 20 odd years, and that self-same Terry writes to the Black Country Society from his home now in Germany to say, I would like to donate my collection of railway photographs to the Black Country Society. So consequently, the name of this presentation is A Black Country Steam Photographer Rediscovered, because we have literally rediscovered Terry Hyde, who is now in retirement in Germany, where he moved a few years ago to be near to his daughter, who was working in Germany as an English teacher. So this is Terry Hyde's collection, or a small part of it. And of course, this formed the basis of the recent Black Country Society exhibition in Dudley Archives, where we put on a lot of Terry's photographs. And Terry did actually visit the exhibition in Dudley only a few days ago. Literally, this is just the week before last. Here's Terry at the exhibition with his grandson, Adam, who, as it happens, is a professional photographer by profession. So he readily appreciates Terry's work. It's the first time he'd seen it, or seen this extent of it, and he was very complimentary about it. So there's Terry, looking much younger than his 84 years. And here he is in about 1960, looking a lot older than he's then 20 years. So anyway, here we go with some other photographs. We start with a fairly mundane image, actually, of it's just a British Railways public notice, but it's a very important point in history for Black Country Railways, and particularly for Dudley, because it's British Railways announcing the withdrawal of passenger services from the Wolverhampton low level to Stourbridge Junction line via Dudley, and it's announcing the closure of those lovely little stations: Bilston West, Daisy-Bank and Braidley, Prince's End and Cosley, Tipton Five Ways, Blowers Green, and Round Oak, and they were to close in July. I think the date's on there somewhere, but it was July 1962. And Terry was aware of this, and he was determined to get round the Black Country as much as he could and record these railways before they closed and before steam power was eliminated. So we start with a little ride on that line from Wolverhampton low level to Dudley and Stourbridge, which is the old Oxford, Worcester and Wolverhampton Railway, the old Worse and Worse, as it was nicknamed. And here we are, starting off at Daisy-Bank and Braidley in the early summer of 1962, where Terry is recording the final weeks of this service. And there's a typical train on the OWW, pulled by a local favourite, 78008, which was a Wolverhampton Stafford Road loco. And there it is, departing from Daisy-Bank and Braidley. And the next station is Prince's End. Now, Terry hadn't recorded this picture, and he didn't know where it was, and he asked me if I could identify it. And I've got a sneaking feeling it was Prince's End and Cosley, but I wasn't quite sure. But after a bit of investigation, I proved it was, because you see that gable end of the house in the extreme top right hand corner of the picture. Well, if we find another picture of Prince's End, a wider picture, you can see that gable there, top right again, proving that this is indeed Prince's End and Cosley. And this is our old friend 78008 again, on another occasion, just pulling into Prince's End and Cosley with its rickety wooden platforms, but it's very new, reinforced concrete footbridge. I don't know whether that dates from just pre-war or just post-war, but at the time, relative to the age of the station, it was quite a new innovation. Now, Terry, having took that picture, Terry dashed to the other side of the bridge to get the train going away. And there's the train heading towards Prince's End Goods Yard in the distance. And there, top left, is the old Bluefield Infant School in Tipton. Well, the next station we come to is Tipton Five Ways. And that vantage point is from the footbridge. And the factory in the distance is Bean's Engineering, which you may remember, home of Bean cars, and the Thunderbolt world speed record breaking car built there. Just coming out of Tipton Five Ways, a few hundred yards down the line, we see another occasion, a prairie tank just departing with the typical three-coach train. And again, these are all taken in June or early July 62, so literally in the final few weeks or even the last few days of the service. You can see Tipton Five Ways station platforms just in the distance there, and there's the bridge that Terry took the previous picture from. Well, standing on this spot and turning round through 180 degrees, that's the view towards Dudley. There's Dudley Castle Hill and the Rowley Hills in the distance. And here we've got a single unit parcels rail car heading towards Wolverhampton. And quite a fairly rural scene, this, considering we're in the middle of the Black Country. A lot of green space in this area with Castle Hill and the Fox Yards open space to the right. Sadly, this the route of this railway was completely destroyed after closure. It closed completely in 1966. It was allowed to just rot away for several decades, but then in the 1990s, the route was completely destroyed by the construction of factories a little bit further down towards Prince's End. And where we see here, this particular spot is now a linear housing estate, and the remnant of the track bed is completely obliterated. The only clue to its existence is the fact that the road of the housing estate is called Oxford Way, in recognition of that railway company, the Oxford Worcester Wolverhampton Railway. Moving on a little bit, crossing the line and moving a little bit nearer towards Castle Hill, there's another shot with a nice prairie tank heading towards Dudley. Whether this was on the same occasion, I don't know. But it's quite possibly it was, and Terry would have happily trespassed across the line as he did in those days, quite dramatically, as we'll be seeing a bit later on, without any consequence. There in the distance, you can see the British Federal Factory, and the bridge in the distance is the bridge which crosses the Birmingham New Road. And just a few yards after that, the train will cross over the Dudley Canal, where it enters the Dudley Canal Tunnel, and will pass the future site of the Black Country Living Museum. Well, we've arrived in Dudley now. Again, we're still in this period of June, July 1962, the final weeks of the service. And there's another prairie tank waiting at the platform for the road through to Stourbridge Junction. And you can see Dudley Tunnel in the distance, and that lovely road bridge which carries the bottom of Castle Hill over the railway, which is still there, of course. And there's the view from the top of the retaining wall, looking down on Dudley Station. On this occasion, we've got one of the prairie tanks on the Wolverhampton Stourbridge train. I don't think they were quite the usual motive power. It was prairie tanks seem to be the usual locos on this service. And just on the extreme left, you can see a BR diesel rail car, which is probably for the Old Hill service, the Bumblehole line down to Old Hill. And that's what that scene looked like a few years later. Dudley Station was demolished in '67, and in the late '60s was developed as a freightliner depot. You can see there. Sadly, that didn't last that long. It only lasted till about 1986 or 87, and the site just lay derelict for many years. But if we look down from that vantage point today, this is what we see: the Very Light Rail Innovation Centre. Quite an exciting new building, occupying the exact site of the station. And up on the left there is the route of the new Metro tram, which is being built at the moment. That'll come up the South Staffordshire line, up the old railway drive onto Castle Hill and up through the centre of Dudley. And that should have been open by now, but it's I've announced it'll now be sometime next year, although they haven't said when yet. But we might be seeing a little bit more of that progress as we progress through the slides. So back to 1962, and there's another view looking down from the other side with a Duck 8 loco passing through with a train of steel scrap. And there in the right platform is a VR single unit. This one being bound for Birmingham Snow Hill. You can actually read Birmingham Snow Hill on the indicator board there. And this was a peculiarity of Dudley in those days, the train to Birmingham Snow Hill actually departed from that bay platform, which meant they had to go out towards Stourbridge, then reverse to get back onto the South Staffs line. A very awkward arrangement resulting from the development of the two companies. Because this side of the station was Great Western Railway, and the far side was the LNS, and things didn't change even after nationalisation. So the Western region trains, as they became, still departed from that bay platform on the Great Western side. Here's a lovely shot from the end of the Great Western platform looking towards the tunnel. And this is a Grange loco, and Terry tells me that this was a Dudley Zoo excursion from Gloucester, about to depart back to Gloucester in the late afternoon. And this one's a bit early. This is 1960. And in the distance, we've got a Midland region tank engine shunting some parcel stock, no doubt in preparation for a trip down to Dudley Port High Level. This is the other end of the station with a freight coming through and about to take the South Staffs line down to Dudley Port and Wednesbury. In the background, of course, we've got the Hippodrome Theatre, which was only demolished fairly recently, amidst much controversy because a lot of people wanted to keep it, but it's now gone and it's been redeveloped as a college, a new college building. And there is the Midland region platform with a Walsall-bound DMU. These are multiple units about to depart down to Walsall. And another view of the same platform looking in the other direction with what looks like a Western region DMU this time, and a platform full of parcels, trolleys and pigeon baskets, which were such a typical scene on Black Country Station back in those days. And on the other side of the platform, there's a train arrived from Birmingham Snow Hill behind another prairie tank, 8109. Right, we're departing from Dudley now and heading towards Stourbridge Junction. Oh, before we do that, Terry has nipped up into the town to get a shot of a trolleybus outside the Saracen's Head. We thought that was worth showing. But back down to the railway, and this is Blowers Green Junction. There's the main line ahead to Stourbridge, and the Bumblehole branch down to Old Hill, branching off to the left. And here we've got an auto train, pannier tank and auto trailer, which is probably coming empty from Stourbridge to form one of the services on the Bumblehole line. And we'll be seeing more of that a bit later. But again, Terry, having taken that picture, he's quickly dashed to the other side of the bridge to get the going away shot, and we see the train passing through Blowers Green Station with the Dudley Gasworks up on the hill there. And then further down, here's another pannier tank with the typical three-coach set coming down towards Parkhead Viaduct. That's Shore Road on the left, and I think this is taken from the bridge carrying Cinderbank over the railway. And if we move down a little bit further down the line, there's another train actually crossing over Parkhead Viaduct with the chimneys of the Stourbridge Brick Company brickworks in view, and you can just see Topchurch Dudley just to the left of the loco. And of course, this is the route of the metro. Although this will be a second phase of the metro, I think they're trying to get it open to Dudley at first, early next year, and this second phase down to Merry Hill and Bridal Hill will follow on, but they haven't given any time scale for that as yet. Right, we're going to do a little deviation now up to Bagridge Junction off the Oxford Worcester Wolverhampton line, up to Bagridge Junction to show a freight coming through freight having come through from Oxley, through Wombourne and Himley, which served as an important diversionary route for freight traffic to avoid the busy centres of Wolverhampton and Dudley, as a way of bypassing the Black Country. And there's Bagridge Junction signal box, very rickety looking structure on the on stilts, built on the side of the embankment. But a fascinating picture this to reveal that, because you've probably seen lots of pictures of Bagridge Junction signal box, but never realised that it was a structure like that on stilts, because most of the pictures you see of it are just taken from the front, and it looks like it's on solid ground. Right, down to Stourbridge now, and here we are arriving at Stourbridge Junction on a 3-car DMU, bound for Bewdley, as you can see. And what we're going to do now, we're going to take a trip with Terry down to Bewdley and over the Severn Valley Railway up to Shrewsbury, and then come back from Shrewsbury back to Wolverhampton. And those of you who are Black Country Society members may remember the article which Terry wrote, which appeared in the autumn 2022 Black Country magazine, which was called Sunset Over the Severn Valley, where he told the story of a typical trip over the Severn Valley Railway in 1960, early 62, I think it was, when he realised that the line was going to be closing in the next few months. So these photographs now follow one of Terry's journeys. Now we've arrived at Kidderminster now, behind the Grange Clap, which is just stopped there in Kidderminster Station. And if we turn to look the other way, there's a Great Western Railway rail car on the other platform, showing that ornate original station building at Kidderminster, sadly now gone. And there's a lovely shot looking south from Kidderminster, with the goods shed on the right. That goods shed still survives, of course, part of the Severn Valley Railway set up now, and it's actually houses their carriage works, their carriage workshops. And here's another rail car coming in from the Bewdley direction, and another shot from the same position with a prairie tank coming in with a 2-coach train, probably from Bewdley, and another nicely illustrating the goods shed there. Right, we're going on to Bewdley now, and there we are, arrived at Bewdley. That scene very recognisable to us all today, because it's now in the care of the Severn Valley Railway. So we've got a beautifully preserved station at Bewdley, and scenes like that are quite common. Although, of course, they haven't got the Great Western Rail car, sadly. They've got a BR diesel unit, but not a Great Western Rail car. But nevertheless, that scene is typical of the preservation movement that you can see today at Bewdley. And there's another shot with a pannier tank coming in. And very busy scene there with 2 Great Western Rail cars and a BR diesel unit on the far platform. Lots of activity. And Terry tells me that the lady sitting on the bench on the right-hand side is his future wife, Pauline. And they married, I think he said, in 1963. This is a shot from 1961. And there's a prairie tank about to depart from Bewdley. Now that is a scene that can be recreated today in preservation, with the prairie tank and the signal box and signals all still there, of course. So we're having a trip up the Severn Valley now. We're arriving there at Bridge North on a Great Western Rail car on a rainy day. And there, about to depart south, is a VR standard tank. And it's still raining. And I think that sign there saying passengers requested to cross the line by the bridge is still in place at Agenoria. We've now arrived at Bilgwas, which was the junction for the Much Wenlock branch, and yet another diesel rail car. And there we are on the Much Wenlock branch platform with a VR single unit having arrived from Much Wenlock. And there's a freight coming up the Severn Valley, having come up from Bridge North. And there, of course, is the power station, Iron Bridge Power Station. And this again is the Much Wenlock branch platform with a train about to depart for Much Wenlock. And Terry did travel on the Much Wenlock branch on more than one occasion. And in fact, the last occasion that he did that was actually the last day or the last weekend of passenger services. And this is one of the enthusiasts' last trains with 4178. I think the headboard is on the back, but you do see pictures of this occasion with the that loco carrying the headboard, last train to Much Wenlock. And Terry took a couple of landscape shots on one of his visits to Bilgwas and that area, and there's one of them, a Much Wenlock branch train heading towards Bilgwas in the lovely Shropshire landscape. And another one of it actually passing Bilgwas Abbey. Now, how many people have got photographs like this of steam loco passing Bilgwas Abbey? What a fabulous location. And we've now arrived at Shrewsbury, and when it still had its all-over roof. I think that came off in 1963, but there it is in 61. And there's a Jubilee class loco about to depart to the south, probably down to Hereford. And another lovely shot in Shrewsbury, a Black 5 arriving, Terry tells me, arriving from Swansea, having come up the Central Wales line. Well, from Shrewsbury, we're going to come back towards the Black Country now. And here we are at Wellington with a county class coming through. Wellington Station not really changed that much over the years. All the buildings and canopies are still there. And we've still got the through roads in the centre. It's amazing they've survived, really, because you can't think of what traffic justifies still having through roads. Because all the passenger trains stop at Wellington, and there can't be that much freight coming through there all day. But anyway, there we are. We've still got those three roads. Now we're back at Wolverhampton now. Now, can you believe this is the only shot that Terry ever took at Wolverhampton low level, which is surprising, really. But considering how much photography he did throughout the area. But it's an interesting shot because it shows the through goods line coming around the side of the station with the carriage sheds there in the distance. But back into the Black Country proper now, and here we are at Moxley, and there is Terry's bike leaning against the fence, and a standard 5 coming through on an express. Passing the site of what is now the it's not called Moxley, what's it called on the metro stop? Is it Loxdale? Loxdale, I think. But that's where one of the metro stops is now, in that position. The metro haven't been built on the Great Western Main Line, and of course that reopened in 1999 as the metro. And turning through 180 degrees. There's a castle coming through on an express with coming from Wednesbury, from the Wednesbury direction. And then we now got an early morning shot of the Cornishman, and it's quite an atmospheric shot. This is the Cornishman coming through with the castle, and that's crossing Great Bridge Road at Willingsworth, and heading a bit nearer towards Wednesbury. Here's a Cornishman, a return Cornishman coming back in the evening. Terry often went out and captured the Cornishman coming back, which was easy to do in the summer months, because this return journey would be something like 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the evening. So in the summer months, it'd still be plenty of light to capture that on each return journey. And as you can see again, he's not worried about trespassing. If somebody was found on a main line like that these days, the whole network would shut down whilst police came out to see you off and arrest you. But not in those days. Thankfully for us now, we've got these lovely photos. Moving through Wednesbury, this is the bank climbing up to Hilltop Tunnel, with this panorama of Wednesbury with the two churches on the hill. And that's actually Bell King 6000 King George V coming through on an express. And there's another shot on another occasion with a castle and a nice clear view of Wednesbury town. And the train is just crossing the bridge over the Tame Valley Canal. And there's a going away shot with a Grange going down the bank. One of the things that gets you with looking at pictures like this from this time is the amount of photographic opportunities there were, and landscape opportunities. There's fantastic vistas and views to photograph trains in the Black Country landscape. Not many people did it, of course, because it's not many of the really big name photographers came out to the Black Country, which is why people like Terry and David Wilson, his mate, did such a fantastic job in recording the Black Country in those days. Well, we'd still got steam racing through the landscape. This is a bit further up the bank towards Hilltop Tunnel, and you see he's getting a bit close to the line here for his photography. And the next one is even more alarming, because look at this. He's actually in Hilltop Tunnel, almost standing on the down line to get this fantastic shot of a king coming through, framed with the portal of the tunnel. And you wouldn't get away with that these days on a main line. Well, going to the other side of Hilltop Tunnel, here we are, is a hall class emerging from the other end. And that will now be climbing up the bank towards Swan Village. There's another shot with a castle. And I can't quite read the headboard on that. Maybe it's the Cambrian Coast Express. Looks like it could be. With a nice set of cream and chocolate coaches. And another fabulous photographic opportunity here was to climb on top of the tunnel and look in the other direction to get the superb panorama of Swan Village Gasworks. And another train coming down the bank, heading towards the tunnel. Well, here we are, almost in Swan Village Station. Another king coming up the bank with Swan Village Goods Yard on the right. And now we cross over the tracks to the other side to see a mogul, a Great Western mogul, coming through with a mixed freight. And here's a lovely shot of the German gas holder at Swan Village. That was the last gas holder to survive. I think it was demolished in 1999. And this train is a train from Dudley, coming from having come through Great Bridge and joining the main line at Swan Village. It's just crossing over the Ridgeacre Branch Canal. A lovely composition there. And this is Swan Village Station with a castle hurrying through and climbing up the bank towards West Bromwich. And you can see the tunnel right in the distance there, top left. You can see it's quite a gradient up to the tunnel. And this is a little bit nearer towards West Bromwich, with a castle coming through. 7008, this is Swansea Castle. I remember that number. And this is heading back towards Swan Village. And then Terry passes through West Bromwich, and here we see the Hawthorns Halt, which of course was the station for the Albion ground, used only on match days. And this is a Cambrian Coast Express, another King Hall train coming through the Hawthorns Halt. And we've now arrived at Birmingham Snow Hill, and here we see King George V again, Bell King, on another Cambrian Coast Express. And the year is 1962, because in the other platform on the right you can see one of the new Western class diesels, which I think on that occasion was actually on display at Snow Hill Station when it was a brand new, the class had just been launched, and they were brand new, and the British Railways were showing them off to the public. And I think I remember that actually. I think I was actually there when that Western class was on show in 1962. But a lovely record of that. And then he's got a going away shot as well with George V. And then another shot of Snow Hill with one of the new Western diesels on the Birmingham Pullman. And it's probably one of those occasions when the blue Pullman was out of service and they had to rely on the loco hauled stock instead of occasionally. Not quite see which loco it is, but one of the new Western class diesels. So that's Birmingham Snow Hill. We now jump across to Birmingham New Street, and again some very serious trespassing here. Jumping down onto the track, we've got this fabulous photo of a Jubilee, and the composition really enhanced by the railwayman standing there in the middle as well. It's a wonderful picture. And still at New Street, here's the other end of New Street with a Fowler tank. 264 tank, which I think is about to depart for the Redditch branch, Redditch and Evesham. But what we're going to do now is head out on the Stour Valley line to Albion, and this was a favourite photographic position for Terry, Albion Station, and there the Stour Valley line is crossing the New Line Canal with West Bromwich Gasworks just in view on the left. And there's a Royal Scot class coming through. Looking in the other direction, we see Albion Station in the distance with its big footbridge, and there's a LNW Duckade coming through on a mixed freight. And there's Albion Station from the footbridge with its distinctive curved roof. Albion Station was an early casualty. It closed in 1960. But it stood there for many years, just still complete after closure. And having moved through Albion Station towards Dudley Port, there's another Duckade coming through a lovely black country landscape. That's on the right is the area which is now Sheepwash Park. It would be impossible to get that picture now because you'd see nothing but trees. You wouldn't get any view at all. Tree growth has been so So big over the last few years that it's blocked all the views. There in the distance on the right, you can see the Mongas Works of Dudley Port, and on the left, the Rowley Hills of Port. We've now arrived at Dudley Port, with another Royal Scot class heading back towards Birmingham. And Terry is trespassing again, of course, but that's good because we've got this lovely big picture. And here's a beautiful portrait of a Patriot class loco, one of the unnamed ones, 45550. And of course, Terry's climbed over the fence to get this picture because he's actually standing on the main line now to get this. But it was certainly worth it. And on the other side of the Newport station, this lovely view looking back along the New Line Canal, with what looks like a Black 5 heading out with an express towards Wolverhampton. And the canal on the left is the Dixon's Branch Canal, which went up to serve the Horsley Ironworks. But that's the new main line canal, which is still there, of course, but all the branches have all gone. And another shot, actually standing on that towpath bridge, and another duck-out coming through with a train of ballast wagon. And the bridge you see on the right is the bridge that carries the Sedgley Loop Railway from Dudley Port High Level, connect down onto the low level line at Sedgley Junction. And that allowed trains to run from Dudley right up to Dudley High Level. And that's looking in the other direction with the Mongas Works forming a backdrop. And that looks like a Jubilee class heading towards Dudley Port. Right, we've jumped back to Wednesbury now to get back onto the South Staffs line. And here's a wonderful landscape looking south from Wednesbury with Ockerhill Power Station dominating the scene. Wednesbury Exchange sidings on the right, and then the South Staffs line curving away to the left. But then that the railway which curves to the right, just to the left of the power station, that's the Prince's End branch, which connected back up to the Stale Valley line at Tipton. And so Terry took this next picture halfway up the Prince's End branch. Again, some serious trespassing to get this. I think it's an 8F blasting its way up the bank because it was quite a steep incline up to Ockerhill. And the bridge he's standing on is the bridge which carries the railway over the Walsall Canal. So back to the South Staffs line, and this is Gold's Hill signal box, and this is a Dudley Zoo excursion, which is coming from the north, from the Derby-Nottingham direction. And it's just passing the entrance to Cashmore's scrapyard on the right. Cashmore's was famous or infamous for cutting up lots of steam locos in the 1960s. And on the next shot, Terry's actually got a panorama of the scrapyard from across the way, and we can see in there several locos. There's the one in the middle is certainly a Duck 8. The one to the left by the telegraph pole looks like a 2P, a Midland 2P 440. None of those were preserved before, so if only you could get your hands on that now, that would be a treasure. Another interesting thing to railway enthusiasts on the shot are those signals on the right, which look like London North Western Railway lower quadrant signals. So they were quite ancient things by then. Now we've arrived at Dudley Port, at Great Bridge North Station, and again more trespassing. And there's an 8F just coming under the footbridge. But notice on the left, on the platform, a series of prams awaiting dispatch as parcel traffic. Now, Great Bridge was the home of Tansad prams, which were made just a few hundred yards from this spot. The Tansad, quite a famous for a minute today. I think now we're going up onto the footbridge. Oh no, that's what that scene looks like today. And there's the metro station being constructed now at Great Bridge. This was taken just a few weeks ago. And so the new metro stop is exactly on the site of the old Great Bridge North station that you saw in the previous picture. But we've now climbed up onto that footbridge, and we're looking down onto what I think is another Dudley Zoo excursion, pulled by a crab, LNS Crab Loco, waiting departure up the bank towards Dudley Ford. And there's Great Bridge signal box just on the left. That's a new road crossing the railway at that point. And they've just rebuilt that bridge actually for the metro. And another shot from the footbridge, this time looking down on another Duck 8 with the new road bridge in sight. And yet another picture at Great Bridge, this time with an Eastern Region V1 having come back down from Dudley with a return excursion. Terry reckoned this was an excursion to Lincoln. A lot of these Dudley Zoo excursions started from the north and northeast Midlands, places like Nottingham, Mansfield, and even as far as Lincoln. And consequently, they were usually pulled by Eastern Region locos. So this was quite a delight for train spotters, particularly on bank holiday Mondays and summer Sundays, excursions to Dudley Zoo. Moving a little bit up the line towards Dudley Port, we come to Horsleyfields Junction. So this ATEP is just come up through Great Bridge North, but the line on the right is the Great Western Line, which connects through to Swan Village, and this carried the services from Dudley through to Birmingham Snow Hill via Great Bridge and Swan Village. And notice those very tall signal arms there, so that the signalman at Great Bridge could see over that bridge. And there's a picture from the bridge showing those signals again, and a Duck 8 heading up the bank with a coal train. And on the right, you've got the works of Horsley Bridge and Thomas Piggott, very famous engineering works, who built bridges throughout the world. And Horsley Bridge and Thomas Piggott were rail connected and had their own internal system, and they even had their own shunting loco called JT Daly. And one of Terry's earliest memories was seeing this loco shunting the Horsley Piggott yard, which he could view from the back of his school at Great Bridge Infant School, the playground backed onto the works. And Terry would watch this loco shunting in the 1950s, the early 1950s, from his school playground. There's another shot of it. We've moved a little bit further up towards Dudley Port. This is Lower Church Lane, and a Duck 8 performing a banking duty, banking a freight train up to Dudley Port and Dudley. The banking engines would come on at Great Bridge and bank the trains up to Dudley, quite a steep gradient from Dudley Port to Sedgley Junction. And here's another Dudley Zoo excursion with another crab class loco approaching Sedgley Junction. And here is Sedgley Junction itself, the signal box, just a few yards further on. and yet another Dudley Zoo excursion, this time with a black fire. And notice the tower of Tipton Library just to the left of Sedgley Junction signal box there. Now, that bridge that the train was about to cross on the previous picture, it's just on the bridge at that point. The bridge was actually rebuilt in 1961, and Terry was there to record the scene. And so we've got a steam crane there, removing the old beams from the bridge, and a team of workmen in action. And there's a view from the road. This is Sedgley Road East. Sorry, Sedgley Road West. East or west? Can't remember. Sedgley Road East, I think, from that point. And there's the steam crane and a black five removing the old beams, and they were about to be replaced with modern reinforced concrete beams. Now, this is 1961. But if we fast forward to last year, that bridge was demolished. And there are those reinforced concrete beams which went in 1961, being demolished to make way for a new bridge for the metro. And there's the new bridge, photographed a few weeks ago. And on the right, that will be another metro stop called Sedgley Road. So now we're heading up towards Dudley now, and we're almost there. There's Castle Hill in the distance, and a lovely shot in the winter of 1960, Terry says, showing a goods train halted at signals on the approach to the Dudley station. But the beauty of this picture is it shows this wonderful goods warehouse, which was actually a grain warehouse, according to the sign on the other side of it, which was demolished not very long after this. It was demolished in the very early 60s, although that brick base remained for many years. But again, we're on the route of what will shortly be reopened as the metro, and another station is to be built here, but it's being built as we speak. And that will be called Tipton Road, because that's Tipton Road going over the railway just in the distance. So, oh, sorry, wrong way. So here we are, another train just gasping up the last few yards of the steep bank into Dudley Station. You can see on the right there's another plume of smoke or steam coming from a banker at the back of this train. And so we arrived back at Dudley Station, and there's that great view again from the top of the retaining wall, looking down onto the station, and an 8F coming through this time with a goods, probably from the South Staffs line. And on the left we see another single unit rail car, which is probably going to be an Old Hill train, I suggest. A single unit service down to Old Hill by the Bumblehole line. Right, we're actually on the Bumblehole line now, and we're on our final stretch of the journey down to Old Hill. And there is one of those single rail cars, the old single rail car. This is photographed from St Peter's Road, Netherton. And the train is just coming down from Baptist End Halt, approaching Windmill End. And here's a shot, having gone through Windmill End. This is Derby End Halt, with the elevated platform, and Dalton's Tile Works in the on the right hand side there behind the railway, and of course the rail is behind. And on the same occasion, turning to the right, Terry got this delightful shot of that that unit going away with these kids playing on the bank. And Terry tells me that when he got married in 1963, he and Pauline actually moved to Derby End. So this line was quite handy for them. But sadly, because of his newly married status, he didn't have a lot of time for railway photography. And so we've not got as many pictures on this line as we might have hoped from that period. But this is one of the most dramatic, and it's an oil train, probably heading for Rowley Ridge's oil depot. And it took a bit of working out this because which direction is it going? Is it going down the bank or up the bank? And Terry couldn't quite remember. But I think because of the smoke coming out of that ATF, it looks as if it's going down, doesn't it? And yet it looks as if it's on the up line because it's so near to the edge of the bank. It's a double track line here. So there we are. And in the distance, we can't quite see what the train loco is, if it is going in that direction. And then the other question with this is why a banker? Because this line falls from Dudley down to Windmill End and down to Old Hill. But the reason is, of course, that from Old Hill up to Blackheath was quite a steep bank. So apparently the banker was put on at Blowers Green, and it's needed by the time you get to Old Hill to push the train up the bank to Blackheath. But what a shame we can't see what that loco is at the other end, because there were some spectacular oil trains on this line in its latter years, and locos like 9Fs apparently regularly worked it. But sadly, Terry, by that time, he was too busy with his early married life to get out much with his camera. So he's from about 1963, his photography tailed off a bit. So it's a bit of a shame, really, but we can't hold that against him because we've got such a wonderful collection of pictures from the years before. So we're heading down to Old Hill now, and we're about to finish the journey in Old Hill Station. Here we are with the single coach train from Dudley, and that amazing sign, Old Hill change here for Halesowen, Windmill End branch and Dudley, despite the fact that the whole Halesowen branch services had finished as long ago as 1928, it's still been advertised here in 1963. But there we are. And this loco wasn't motor fitted, and in fact that's it's not an auto coach anyway, so that loco will have to run round that coach to get back onto the front for its return journey to Dudley. And here it is, having run round the train, and it's ready to depart back up the Bumblehole line to Dudley. So that pretty well completes this journey. Terry did take lots of pictures throughout the country, not just locally. There wasn't time in an hour to show you many more of these. He did travel extensively through Scotland and the West Country, with lots of wonderful photos of those areas, still in the steam era. But with just an hour available, this is I've concentrated on the Black Country. So all that remains is to say thank you very much, Terry, for giving us such a wonderful legacy. And all these pictures have been donated to the Black Country Society by Terry, so they now belong to the society. So as a final shot, let's get back to Terry at that exhibition and say a big thank you to him.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you, big thank you to Keith for joining us tonight and for such a fascinating and nostalgic talk. I was reminded as a boy, and probably talking about 1960-ish here, I guess. Catching the Dodger from Starbridge Town into Starbridge Junction with my mother, then catching the steam train into Birmingham, into the wonderful Snow Hill station as it was then, and then into Lewis's to see Father Christmas.
Ah, yeah.
Happy days. Anyway,